Right, students. Now we'll start off today's session, right? Uh, Now, very specifically, students, last week, right? So we'll go through the things that we discussed last week, right? Try to reconcile, right? So last week, students, we discussed about stakeholders, right? Last week we discussed about stakeholders, a key area in your syllabus, right? So now you know stakeholders are those individuals who are interested, right? Who are interested about the performance of the company, about the activities that the organization is performing, right? Right. So we had a very thorough discussion about 10 key stakeholders, right? 10 key stakeholders. And for each stakeholder students, we discussed what are the interest areas for each stakeholder as well, which is one of the areas that will be highly tested in your examination, right? So I hope you all have gone through the note, you all have a very good understanding about stakeholders, right? And today we will take one step ahead and we will now very specifically take a deep dive into business environment, right? So this part is anyway about, your lesson number, lesson number one, part B is about business environment, but in that you have two parts to cover. One part is stakeholders, and the second part is very specifically about business environment, right? Okay. So some of you all might have learned about business environment in your ordinary level, no? Right? For your O level commerce. Some of you all might have done or might have learned about business environment, right? But some of the students who has not done commerce, that's fine, right? I will teach you all the fundamentals in business environment, slowly take things forward. Okay, right? Okay, right. So, students, what do you mean by business environment? What do you mean by business environment? Very specifically, this is the environment in which a business operates, right? This is the environment in which a business operates. So, if you look at the environment, if you look at a business environment, students, there are different types of factors that will influence businesses, operations, performance, and the decision making, right? So, in this sector, we are talking about what is the environment that a business organization is working or operating, and what are the factors in this business environment that will impact the decision making or the performance of your business organizations, right? So uh, last week we discussed about stakeholders. Those stakeholders are also part of the business environment. Why? Those stakeholders will also influence the activities and the decision making of business. So when you are learning about business environment under different categories, you will get to learn about those stakeholders once again and how will they affect the organization or impact the activities of the business organization, right? So very specifically, students, if you look at business environment, right, if you look at business environment, the business environment is actually divided into two parts, right? Divided into two parts. First part is actually the internal environment, right? And the second part of business environment is the external environment, right? So my today we will be very specifically focusing upon the internal environmental factors, and if we have time, we can go and talk about uh, the balance part, or what do you call, on the external environment you have immediate or task environment. So if we have time, the time permits, we'll go and discuss about it as well. Okay, right. So simply, right, first let's talk about internal environment. Right. First let's talk about internal environment. Right. Now before we fill all these things here, we'll go to the definition of internal environment. After that, we'll slowly come down and fill all the factors that are coming under internal environment. Okay, right. Good. Right. Internal environment. Very specifically, students, as per the word says, internal environment means internal environment captures all the factors and the forces that will influence a business organization, that will influence the decision making of the business organization. But these factors are lying inside the business organization. These factors are there inside the business organization. That's why we call it as internal environment. There are factors inside the business organization that will impact the operations of the business. So those factors are coming under internal environment. The forces and conditions that influence and exist, right? And influence and exist, you can fill the blanks within, within, right? You can fill your blanks within, right? Inside the business. These factors and forces are there inside the business. Right? Within the, right, within an organization that can influence its operations, performance, and decision making. Okay. So internal environment encompasses all the factors and conditions that are under the direct control, right? That are under the direct control. You can write that also. Very important, right? Under the direct control, very important. Direct control, right? Which means, students, now you know these internal environment factors are there inside the business organization, right? Since those factors are there inside the business organization, we do have direct control on those factors. So we can control those factors, right? Because those factors are affecting the operations of the business, right? So in that case, we do have fully control to make changes, right, accordingly to those factors. That's why we can call it as those factors. We do have the direct control as a business organization, okay, right, of the organization's management and the leadership, right? Okay, right, right. Now, students, what are these internal environmental factors, right? What are these internal environmental factors? Now we can go to our tree diagram and we can fill them, right? 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 What are these internal environmental factors, right? Right? So you can fill with me, right? After that, we're gonna talk about each of these factors one by one. So you can fill your note here, and you can fill your note here, right? I'm going to give you the examples of the factors which are internal to the business, right? Okay, right. Okay, so you can write, right? First factor you can write owners, right? Owners, right? Owners of the business organization, right? Second factor you can write managers. You have your managers. You have your managers. You can write with me. Then you can have the next point is employees. The next point is employees. Employees. We are receiving, right? Then you have organization culture. Culture of the organization. Right? Organization culture. Organization culture. Then you can write organization structure. Don't worry, students, you might not know the meaning of some of these factors, but we are going to talk about each of these factors. Right? Organization structure. Right? And then you can write resources, sum up. Resources. Right? Resources. Okay. Right? Right? So these factors are internal to the business, and also these factors will impact the business organization, the decisions that the organization makes, the operations of the business, and also we can actually control. We have the direct control of these factors. Okay, right. So since you have filled, how I hope all of y'all have filled your note, is it? All right. Okay. Evin, did you fill your note? Do I need to repeat it once again, or did you fill everything? Yes? All right. Okay, good. Great. So we'll take things forward now. Okay. Right. Now, students, right, this is one of the things that is, now we are going to analyze the internal environmental factors, right? We are going to analyze the internal environmental factors, right? Okay. Now, if you look at these internal environmental factors, or if you analyze your internal environment, students, right, each factor, you will be able to identify two key things, right? Right? Two outcomes of your internal environmental analysis for each factor that we just now listed down. So, what are the two elements that you can find out based on the internal environmental analysis? You can write, right? You'll be able to find out what are the strengths, right? What are the strengths? අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා මේකට ශක්තියින් කියලා කියනවා. ශක්ති. Right? ශක්ති. And then the other element that we can find out as a result of our internal environmental analysis is called weaknesses. Weaknesses. අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා දුර්වලතා. Right? දුර්වලතා. Right? Very important. The organization, I mean, in your examination, they will ask. Right? In an examination, they will ask what are the two outcomes that you will obtain as a result of your internal environmental analysis. Then you can write these two answers, right? Okay. Now, students, before we talk about the strengths, weaknesses of each factor, first we need to know the concept. What are strengths and what are weaknesses? Right? Very easy. Right? First, let's talk about strengths. Shakti in right? Very easy. If you look at ourselves also, students, personally, right? If you look at yourself, right, there are certain strengths that you have. Shakti, right? Right? If you do an analysis about yourself, you will find out there are certain strengths that you have where you are good at doing those compared to your friends or compared to others. Those are your strengths, right? Right? As an example, right? I am, so if I talk about myself, right? I'm good at presenting, right? I'm good at presenting. I'm good at teaching, right? That is one of my key strengths where I can do it better than anyone, right? That's one of my strengths that I have found out. That's why I'm doing lectures, right? Okay, that is one of my key strengths, right? Right? So, likewise, students, you will also have certain strengths where you are good at. Just like that, the same understanding, if you look at your business organization, there are certain factors which are internal to the business, and those factors are very unique to your business. Those factors are strengths for your business, where your competitors are not having those factors. Right? Right? So those are called strengths. Things that your organization does particularly well. I told you, right? As your organization, you do certain things particularly well compared to who? Compared to your competitors. So as a result of these things that you do particularly well, you will be distinguished from your competitors. Competitors because you are doing something different, right? You have certain strengths with you in your business organization. Those are called strengths, right? So these forces will have what? What else? What can you say? What can you say? Right? What can you say about the impact of these strengths? Will it be a positive impact or will it be a negative impact? These are good things, the things that you do well. Exactly. Through strengths, it will bring a positive impact. Positive impact. Positive impact on your business operations, performance, and the decision making of your business organization. And decision making of your business organizations, right? Okay, right, right. So, students, now later I will give you enough an amount of examples for strengths when we are discussing each factor one by one. Okay, just for the time being, keep the concept in your mind. Okay, right. Then, students, The second element that we be able to identify through a good internal environmental analysis is what? Weaknesses. Durvalata. Durvalata. Right? Simply the opposite of strengths, no? Just like you have strengths, right? You will have some weaknesses as well, right? Right? පුද්ගලික වශයෙන් ගත්තාම වාට සමහර දේවල් හොඳින් කරන්න පුළුවන් සමහර දේවල් හොඳින් කරන්න බෑ. Right? Now, as an example, personally, I cannot dance, right? I cannot dance. I can handle singing, right? But I cannot dance, right? My wife can do it very well, but I cannot do it, right? That is one of my weaknesses, right? That is one of my weaknesses. I cannot dance better than anyone, right? I cannot do it well. So those are weaknesses, right? Just like that, you will also have certain weaknesses, students, right? Because in this world, you don't have people who are 100% perfect, right? So it's a mix of strengths and weaknesses for each individual. Okay, right. So let's apply the concept to business organization. Just like that, students, in a business organization also, there are certain things that you are underperforming. There are certain areas where you are underperforming. You're not doing well. You're not good at it, right? So those are the weaknesses of your business, right? Right. So these forces, right? If you look at these weaknesses, students, they will have a negative impact. They will have a negative impact. Negative impact on operations, performance, and decision making of your business organization. Right? Right. But the good thing is, students, if you have weaknesses, right, you can actually right work on your weaknesses and you can convert your weaknesses into strengths after some time. But if you really focus on your weakness, then if you feel like, okay, I want to develop this, then through numerous amount of attempts and practices, you will be able to convert your weakness into a strength. As an example, I cannot dance, but if I start dancing classes from today onwards every week, right? I do practice over and over again, then I will master the art of dancing. Okay, so just like that, students, in an organization also, if you have weaknesses where you're underperforming, you can come up with some decisions and you can overcome those weaknesses or convert those weaknesses into strengths, right? So later when we are discussing about the full environmental analysis, we are discussing about that as well. Okay, so in that we will focus there, right? So these are weaknesses, right? Okay, right, good. All right. Now just take about 1 minute, and after that, like I mentioned, you let's talk about each and every internal environmental factor one by one and their key strengths and weaknesses, right, for the business organization. Take around 1 minute, reconcile what we have learned, and if you have any question, please do let me know. Okay, super, right? Okay, right. Now, students, talk about each of these internal environmental force or factor one by one. Okay, right. Now, students, before I start, I just want to emphasize, if you look at these internal environmental forces, there are ample of times where it has been tested in your past papers, where they ask you to write a definition for an internal environmental force and write at least 2 to 3 strengths and weaknesses. So I have made your life easy. We are going to discuss strengths and weaknesses for each internal environmental force so that you won't be in trouble in your examination. Okay, right. All right. Good. First, let's talk about the most important, one of the most important internal environmental force, the owners, right? Owners. Vyaparya Aithikaram, right? Who are the owners? Right. So these are the individuals who have invested, right? Who have invested in the business organization, right? So they have invested by putting different types of resources, right? Right. It could be funds, it could be machinery, right? It could be other non-current assets, right? Right. So anytime as an owner you can invest. Some owners are investing their knowledge, it's also a resource, right? Time, right? Anyway, and only if a person who will be contributing resources for the business organization. So these owners will invest resources in the organization, students, not free of charge. Right? They don't want to give their resources, most precious resources, for the business organization free of charge. No, no. They're expecting a profit, right? They're expecting a profit or a return for the resources that they provide. So that's why these owners are main objective of these owners is to make a return to in the form of profits. Right? So sometimes some owners might incur losses as well, just like profits. We don't know. Some businesses will work perfectly well. Then at that and in those point of time, owners could earn a profit. But sometimes the business will not go. The businesses will not run as as according to the plan. So they will incur losses, right? Okay. So owners can take various forms, right? So in a business organization, students, right? There could be different types of owners, right? There could be individual owners, right? There could be partners becoming as owners, no, right? Right, right. And also there are owners who are buying shares of business organizations, right? So those types of ownerships and types of owners we will be discussing in lesson number 4, right? Just for the time being, just keep it simple. Okay, right. Now, students, right? Now let's talk about owners and what are the strengths and weaknesses of these owners. Right? I told you, strengths are the things which help business organization to grow, right? Right? That will positively impact for the business, right? So just think as an owner. Just think that you have started your own business, right? You are an owner of a business. What are the key strengths that will positively impact your business organization? What can you say? Any answers? Any answers? Yes, I'm getting yes, exactly. Just think that if you are an owner of a business and if you have good amount of financial strength, right? You have a lot of funds with you, right? For you to start a business and for you to run a business. You don't have to go behind banks and what do you call request for funds. You have enough funds. That's a strength for the business, right? Compared to other owners of other business organization, you have enough financial strength to start the business and run your business. That is a positive thing for the business. So you can write financial strength, right? Financial strength. Can write it, right? Right. Financial strength, right? Financial strength, right? Right. And all the other students, right? Just assume that, right? You are an owner of a business, but you don't have enough funds, right? Not only funds, you have limited amount of resources. Then that's a weakness for the business, no? Right? Right? Because you cannot help the business to grow because you have only limited amount of funds or resources. That will be a weakness for the business. Limited resources, right? Limited resources, right? Okay. Then let's say there are owners of the business who has good amount of knowledge and expertise in a particular industry. They are good at what they are doing. That's a strength for the business. Knowledge and expertise, right? Knowledge and expertise. Knowledge and expertise, right? Knowledge and expertise, right? Right. Let's say as an example, right? Uh, you have been practicing as a lawyer. You've been practicing as a lawyer, and you start a law firm by yourself, right? Then you don't have to worry about putting the knowledge to it because you have enough knowledge and expertise about how how this industry works because you have been practicing as a lawyer for the last 20, 30 years. Anyone doesn't have to teach you what is law and how to what do you call go with the laws regulations of the country. You know how to do it. You are the best of it. So it's a good strength for your business. But if you have less amount of knowledge or lack of knowledge, lack of knowledge and expertise, that's going to be a weakness for your business. Expertise. That's going to be a weakness for your business, right? That's going to be a weakness for your business, right? So that's why I have seen a lot of individuals, right? They have funds and they start a business, which is actually not known to them, right? They don't do proper research, right? කිසිම research එකක් කරන්නේ නැතුව ඔහේ ව්‍යාපාරයක් පටන් ගන්නවා in an industry that he doesn't have any clue, right? Okay, right, right, right next to your house, right? Your neighbor opens up a bakery, and after 1 week, you also open up a bakery, right? Because you see people coming to your neighbor's bakery, and you feel like, oh, it's good amount of money, right? Right? But your neighbor has been a baker for his entire life, right? You're just a different person. Right? You don't know anything about baking, right? Right? You just only know how to buy a bread and eat it, right? You don't know anything about baking apart from that. So you also go and start a baker, assuming that you will also get people from the next day onwards. You start your bakery, you might not get, so you lose, right? So lack of knowledge and expertise about a particular industry where you're going to start a business, that will have a weakness. That will have a weakness. Then, if you are a good owner, if you have a very good vision, right? Entrepreneurial vision, right? Right? Entrepreneurial vision, right? 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 A good vision, right? Right? You have a very positive vision what you want to do. As a real entrepreneur, you are ready to take risks, challenges, and come up with new things for your business. That is called entrepreneurial vision, right? That's the strength for the business. You have that never giving up attitude, like Elon Musk, right? Right? Yeah, not only Elon Musk, all these big shots, right? Mark Zuckerberg, right? Steve Jobs, they have a very good entrepreneurial vision about the industry, about their product, right? If challenges come, they didn't actually fade away. They face them. That is called entrepreneurial vision. That's a strength for the business. But let's say you have a limited perspective about future. Limited perspective. You don't have a good vision. Limited perspective about future, right? Right. You don't worry about what will happen in the future. Ani, you don't have a very long-term vision. You're not an entrepreneur, right? Right. So that will be a weakness for your business. If you face a challenge, on that day itself, you give up, right? On that day itself, you give up. So that's a weakness for the business. What else? Commitment and dedication, right? Commitment and dedication, right? If you have owners, or if you are an owner of a business where you are fully committed to your business every single day, day and night, you're working really hard for your business. To grow your business, you are a committed person. So one day, don't worry. Results won't come in short term, but after 5 years, after 10 years, after 15 years, you will get your results for the commitment that you have put. So if you are a dedicated person, it's a strength for your business. But if you are an owner who is less committed, right? Less committed, right? No dedication at all, right? Right? ලෝකෙදී සියලුම දේවල් කරලා වෙලාවක් තිබ්බොත් විතරක් ව්‍යාපාරයට ගිහලා පොඩ්ඩක් බලන්න මොනවද කරන්න ඕන කියලා, right? No commitment at all, no focus, no dedication. Those businesses will definitely fail one day, very quickly, right? Very quickly, right? So don't think students businesses will grow over time in overnight. Other පටන් hater, you will make millions and billions of profits. No, right? No, never. Businesses will take some time. Businesses are like small kids, like small infants. It will take some time for them to grow, for them to learn. Just like that, the business has to learn. It will take some time. Until that time, as the owner of the business, you have to take care of your business very well as good parents. Right? So you have to be dedicated. Parents, like just like they take good care of their kids until they grow up, you have to be committed and take care of your business just like a small kid. Grow your business slowly. So for that, you have to be committed. Then one day your business will definitely prosper. Okay, right. So that's why we have these big brands like Apple, Samsung, right? Then we have what you call Tesla, right? Adidas, Nike, Starbucks. All those brands started very small. Netflix, and if you look at their stories, they started very small, but their owners were committed to it. They didn't give up. If they would have given up, if they would have given up at the very beginning, right, because they didn't have enough sales, people were not using their brands. If they would have given up, there is no Nike or Adidas or Netflix or Apple or anything like that. They had that commitment. Those owners have that commitment to give every penny, every effort to the business. That is called commitment. That's why those brands have grown to $1 billion brands in the currently right now. Okay, right? So less commitment, less commitment and dedication is a weakness for the business. Right? What else? Right? You can write risk-taking ability. I told you, I explained you, right? Right? Risk-taking ability. If you are an owner who is willing to take risk no matter what happens, you will definitely be successful. But if you are an owner who is very scared of risk, you must buy a risk, take a gun, then every day your business will be at the same level. When you take risks only, your businesses will grow, right? Resistance to change, right? Resistance to change. Resistance to change. Okay, right? In your students, even though I say you have to take risk, when you're doing business, you have to take a calculated amount of risk, right? That is very important when you're taking this. Those things we discuss when we are discussing about entrepreneurship and small and medium enterprises. Right. Okay. Right. Right. Straight away. Now we move on to the second force in the internal environment. We call them as managers. Right? We call them as managers. Right? Who are managers? Who are managers? Right? Managers are actually the people who are making decisions on a day-to-day basis in a business organization. Right? If they make correct decisions, that will help the business organization to grow. But if they make wrong decisions, now that's the problem. Then that will have a negative impact on your business, right? Okay, right. Now think as a manager. Think as a manager and tell me what are the strengths and weaknesses that will impact a business organization positively and negatively. Okay, right? Positively and negatively. Okay, right. So what are the examples, students? What are the examples, right? Right. So strengths. If the managers are having good leadership skills, effective leadership skills, right? Right. Effective leadership skills, effective leadership skills, effective leadership skills, right? Effective leadership skills. And that's a good thing, right? Your managers are good leaders. They can bring a team together, lead the team to achieve the goals. Those are good managers. Those managers are strengths for a business. But if you have managers who are micromanaging, that's a weakness, right? Micromanaging means what? Right? As a manager, you're not letting your team members to think by themselves and make and do activities. You always go behind them and you tell what to do and what not to do. Right? So it will be some sort of a problem for these employees who are working under these managers. No? Right? Every single time they will come behind you, they will scold you, they will tell you what to do and what not to do, it will be a hassle for you. So that's the difference, right? But of course, in an organization, if you have employees who are very junior, who has less experience, then of course you have to go for micromanagement. But I'm talking about a normal scenario. Okay, right. Then, if your managers are making productive decisions, productive decision making, productive decision making, right? Right, very decisions, right? 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 These managers, before they make a decision, they do a very good analysis, right? And from that, they will make decisions. Those are productive, right? So in that case, that will be a strength for the business because most of the time, if you make decisions by doing a good analysis and research, then there's a less probability that you will go wrong in your decision. That's why it is fair. So the opposite of it part, unproductive decision making. Right? Unproductive decision making. Unproductive decision making, which means there are managers who are just they do when they are making decisions, right? They don't do proper research. They just, I mean, use their gut feelings and instincts and they make the decisions. Then there's a high possibility that students, those decisions will go wrong, right? If you make a wrong decision, that will definitely waste lots of resources that you have in your business. So that's a weakness for the business, right? Then if you have uh, knowledge and expertise, right? Knowledge and expertise, those are strengths for a business. Your managers are having good knowledge and expertise in what they do. That's a strength. Then lack of expertise and knowledge, lack of knowledge and expertise, knowledge and expertise, it's a weakness. Right? Okay. Then if your managers can adaptability, right? Adaptability. And what we mean by adaptability students, right? Now, when you're doing business, right, we know the business environment is actually not constant. It is dynamic, no? Dynamic. And we call the word dynamic. You know, dynamic. Dynamic means students that your business environment is changing on a constant basis. Right? That is called dynamic. Right? The factors in the business environment will change. As an example, right? If you take the automobile manufacturing industry, like 50 years ago, people were demanding for what? Traditional combustion vehicles, right? Which is run through this gasoline and petrol, diesel. But now the market has changed. The preference has changed for hybrid and electric vehicles, right? So look how the market changed in the automobile industry. That is called being dynamic. A business environment will always be dynamic because different competitors will come up with new things. Customers they will prefer different new elements in products. Okay. So in that case, for us, if you are a manager, if you are making decisions for the business, you will always have to adapt to the changes in the business environment. Right? Right. If you are a manager who doesn't want to adapt, then your product will be the same and your customers will reject your product one day. That's what happened for Nokia. They didn't change. So as a manager, you got to have some managers who are adaptable to the changes in the business environment for better things, right? Right. If you have managers who are resistant to change, right? Who are resistant, right? Right? Right. Resistance, right? Right. Resistance for change, right? Venus the buyer, right? Here managers say, no, no, better, right? That will impact the business organization also. Okay, right. So nowadays, in business organizations, right, a lot of managers they have to learn about artificial intelligence, right? Because the technological environment is changing day by day. You cannot be that same old traditional manager, right? Who looks at spreadsheets like taking 2 3 days. No, now you can't. You have to make decisions. You have to use AI tools. You need to learn about AI. right? For you to get your results in just a matter of seconds, right? So in that case, if you are a manager, a good manager, you will adapt to the changes in the business environment that positively impact your business, right? Okay. Next, we'll talk about employees, right? Okay. Another important force who's there in the internal environment, right? Name Harima Vedaka, right? Sevakyu, right? Right. We might have good owners, right? We might have good managers who are making decisions, right? But we should have good employees, right? To engage in day-to-day activities because the managers will make the decisions. Those decisions has to be executed by these employees on a daily basis, right? So in that case, you got to have good amount of employees, right? So if you look at an employee, what are the strengths and weaknesses, students? What are the strengths and weaknesses, right? Now students, these things, right? Don't don't be scared to find points. Don't be scared to find points. Why? Because we are learning practical business, right? We're learning practical business, right? There is no hard and fast rule, or there is no rule book for you to say, oh no, this should be the theory, this should be the answer. These are practical things where you also can think and find answers. That's the beauty of business studies. I always say that. Okay, right? So think practically, right? Right, right. So if you want to find the strengths and weaknesses of employees, think that you are an employee of a business and then you will get the answers. Understood? Right? Okay, good. Okay, so very simple, right? If you have knowledgeable, if you have employees who has good expertise, that's a strength for the business, right? That's a strength for the business. You can write knowledge, expertise, right? Knowledge, expertise, experience, right? If you have employees with these, right? Knowledgeable, expertise, experienced employees, right? That's a strength for the business, right? Then you can write off for weaknesses, right? Less knowledge, right? Less expertise and less experience. Those employees will be a weakness for the business, right? Less knowledge, right? Less knowledge, expertise, this, etc. Right? Then, if you have employees who are highly creative, right? Highly creative. That's a good thing. Highly creative, right? Highly innovative. You can use any answer, right? Okay, right. You have very creative employees in your business organization. They are trying to find their own way, new ways of doing their task. That's a good sign for the business, right? So that these creative employees will try to find ways that will reduce the cost of the activity that they do. That will increase the productivity of the activity that they do, right? Right? It's a strength, right? Then weaknesses. If you have less creative, right? Less creative, or less innovative employees, that's the weakness for your business. That's the weakness for your business. Okay. Then you have a set of employees who are dedicated, right? Who are dedicated and responsible for the work that they do. So that's a strength for the business. Dedicated and responsible employees. Responsible employees. That's a strength for the business. Right? These employees are dedicated and they take the responsibility for what they do. Right? Okay, very good. But on the other side, you have very irresponsible employees, right? Right? Not dedicated, irresponsible employees. Oh, right? That's a very bad sign, right? මේ සේවකයන්ට වැඩක් නැහැ ව්‍යාපාරයට මොනවා වුණත් වැඩක් නැහැ. right? ව්‍යාපාරේ ප්‍රොෆිට් කරත් එකයි නැතත් එකයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ට සැලරි එක හම්බ වෙනවා on a monthly basis. Then they are safe. If you have that type of employees in that mentality, that's really a weakness for the business, because after some time, that whole toxic mentality will negatively impact the entire business operation. Those who are working positively will also become negative only. Okay, right? Right? Then, if you have employees who are adaptable, right? Who are adaptable, right? 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 They always want to change. They don't want to be or they don't want to do the same set of activities in the same. They want to change. That's a good sign. That will lead to more innovative products, innovative features of the product that they offer. But if you have less adaptable employees, less adaptable, that's a problem. Right? Then if you have employees who are highly motivated employees, right? Motivated employees, that's a good strength for the business organization. And you have employees who are demotivated, right? Demotivated employees, that's really bad for your business, right? Right? These demotivated employees are the people who doesn't care about what will happen to the business. Right? කරන වැඩි කරන්නේ ආසාවෙන් නෙමෙයි. ආපු right උදේට නැගිටලා ඔෆිස් එන්න ගිහම ආපු අදත් ඔෆිස් right? They're demotivated. Right? So can you get productive work out of it? No. Right? No, right? Right? Just like some of the students, they go to school like that. No, I do other this score. If you think like that, will you be productive in school? Nah, no way, right? All right, okay, fine. Good. So students, just read it up on it now. Then we have another two factors that we discuss. Uh, on the internal environmental and the internal environment. So before we take things forward, just take around 2 minutes to read. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. Go ahead. All right, students. So do you all have any questions as of now? Online students, physical students, can I get a small thumbs up if you all don't have any question? All understood? Crystal clear? All good? Online students, can I get a thumbs up? Yes. Okay. Can we take things forward? Okay, right. Okay. Right. Okay. So we have like another three more factors to discuss under internal environment. The next factor is called organization culture, right? Organization culture, right? Okay, right. So what do you mean by culture? What do you mean by culture, right? Very specifically, these are the beliefs, right? Let me change the color. These are the beliefs, values, attitudes, norms, habits, behavioral patterns that are shared among everyone in the business, right? Right. සිංහලෙන් කියන්නේ සිරිත් විරිත් සාර ධර්ම right ආකල්ප right those are elements in a culture, right? Okay, right. Now based on the society that we are in, we have a particular culture that we follow. As Sri Lankans, there's a particular culture that we follow, right? Okay, right. There are certain things that we follow, good things, right? Respecting each other, respecting the elders, hospitality, part of our culture. That's what the Suddas say. No? That's what the foreigners say. Sri Lanka is a very hospitable country. That's part of our culture. We just want to make other people happy, right? Right? Okay, right? 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 So those are our elements in the culture. What we follow, right? What we take from one generation to another. Just like that in the business also, students, there's a particular culture, right? In the way that the business is operating, in the way that the business organization is making decisions, in the way that the owners or the managers are treating the employees, right? We can identify the culture of the business organization, right? Okay. There are good cultures as well as toxic cultures in certain businesses, right? Okay. Some business organizations, they will have cultures where they motivate the employees. They give support to employees to grow, right? That's what the managers want. The manager wants their low-level employees to pass him and go up in the corporate ladder, right? But there are some employees, right? They have cultures where very toxic cultures where the leaders won't let their team members to go up in the corporate ladder overpassing them, right? Those are very toxic cultures, right? Okay, bad cultures, right? Anyway, we'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses of an organization culture. Strengths, right? If you have a positive value system, right? Right? If you have a positive value system, right? If you have a positive value system, right? Positive value system, right? Which means the business operations are conducted with good values, right? Respecting each other, respecting the customers, respecting the employees, factory worker, irrespective of what level you are in, right? The person who is washing the bathrooms or washrooms for doing janitorial services and those who are in the top, everyone will be treated in the same way. Those are all positive value system, right? Right? Trying to help each other to go up in the ladder, right? Giving chance. Those are good positive values to us. Those values will definitely be a strength for the business organization. Why? Because as employees, we would love to work in an organization which has positive values, right? Right? I mean, is there anyone who would like to work in a toxic work culture, a negative work culture, right? Where you have lots of what do you call behind the bush talks නේ මූණට හොඳින් කතා කරනවා පස්සේ දොරෙන් ගිහිල්ලානේ ඔක්කොම වැරදිමයි කියන්නේ අනේ මෙයා මෙහෙමයි. Those are all very toxic cultures. I don't think any one of you would like to work in a culture like this, right? So those will become weaknesses. Negative value system, negative value system, right? Right? Negative value systems, right? Okay, right? Some organizations, there are people who would what do you call? The managers will favor certain people. They are pets, right? Okay. හොඳට වැඩ කරන එක්කෙනාට නෙමේ what do you call promotion එක දෙන්නේ නේ. බොසාට හොඳට මුට්ටි අල්ලන අපි කියන්නේ නේ. right? බොසාට හොඳට මුට්ටි අල්ලන, right? එයාට තමයි promotion එකේ ඔක්කොම දෙන්නේ. That's a very negative value system. So the people who are really good at the job will leave the company very soon, right? Okay, right. So promoting strong communication is a strength of business, right? Promoting strong communication, right? Promoting strong communication, which means students in your business organization, everyone has a equal voice, right? Everyone has an equal voice. Everyone can convey their views and opinions, right? That's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? Right? But if you are in an organization, if there's a weak communication system, the culture is very weak in communication, weak communication system. Right? Everyone is not getting an equal opportunity to talk. Sometimes you know something is wrong happening, you see that, but you cannot just convey. You cannot just speak to it. Weak communication. There are cultures like that. You have to do whatever the boss says you to do. Say yes. Yes. No keyword. From next day onwards, you're fired. Okay, there are cultures like that. Very toxic cultures. You cannot work in those cultures. Right? Okay. Then culture of innovation and creativity. Culture of innovation and creativity. Right. Right. Okay. Right. Where these types of cultures, students, right, will give opportunities for employees to be creative, right? Take your time, give your honest idea. If there are new ideas, you'll be given the chance. These are good cultures, positive things. Because these cultures of innovation and creativity will lead to better products. Better ideas lead to better products. That's a good thing for the organization. Right? But if you have a culture, right, right, less promoting, right, less promoting in innovation and creativity, that's a very bad culture. Which means, right, even though you have a very good idea, there's no point of conveying it. No one will listen to you. At the end of the day, there would be the top management will always make the decision, will always, their decision will be the final. Even though you have very good creative ideas, they will put your ideas into the dustbin. No point. So those companies will definitely fail after some time. Okay, right. So you have to have a culture where it gives opportunities to the employees, because at the end of the day, right, from one side, if you give opportunities to your employees to give new ideas, from one side, new ideas will be given, and from that, your products will increase its quality, customers will demand more for your product, more profits. From one side, your profits will also gain. And on the other side, when the company is growing, these employees will also grow monetary terms, and also in their positions also they will grow. Right? They might be executive, they will become managers, senior managers, CEOs. There's a growth for them also. Right? Right? Okay. Because in nowadays, a lot of organizations they don't care about the age. Right? They don't care about the age. Right? Traditionally, if you want to become a CEO, you have to be like 60 years or 65 years. Sorry, when you can become a CEO. Nowadays, it's not like that. They don't care about the age. If you are 25, but if you have a very good understanding about the business, if you are very creative in terms of giving ideas to the business, sometimes you might be taken to the board of directors. Right? Age doesn't matter. You have to be very creative. Right? So you have to have organizations who are having cultures will give you that opportunity. Okay? There are organizations like that have working, right? I've been working in those types of organizations, very good organizations. And the current organization that I'm working right now is all the same. Okay, right. Okay, students, right? Next we have organization structure. Right? What is organization structure? Right? Organization structure means what? Which means, students, very simply, when you are doing your business organization, there's a particular order that every activity needs to be done. Right? There are certain rules and protocols that you need to follow. There are certain policies that you need to follow. Right? All those things are coming under organization structure. Right? Right? So all these elements will set the proper pitch for your organization to work. Right? Right? So as a result of having a good organization structure, your entire organization will be fully organized in whatever you do. In whatever you do. Right? Okay. So that is called organization structure. This is a framework that defines how an organization is organized. Right? How an organization is organized. Right? How authority and responsibility, how authority and responsibility are distributed, which means, students, right, in a business organization, if you want to make decisions, everyone cannot make decisions, right? Based on the position that they have been given some level of responsibility to make decisions, right? Okay, right? So if you are the finance manager, you are being given the authority, the power to make decision about the financing activities of your business, and you are responsible for that as well. You cannot make decisions for the marketing department because you are the finance manager. That is marketing manager, right? So that's what it says. Every employee has an authority and the responsibility. How the authority and responsibility, right? How different roles and responsibility functions are coordinated in an organization. Every individual is having a designated role to play in a different department, right? That shows how the organization is organized. Just think that if you have employees who doesn't know what to do, he does some activities from marketing, head up or finance, that will be like a full mess, right? It's like too many cooks will spoil the soup. Designated cooks. So through organization structure, we are trying to organize everything from tasks, responsibilities, roles, and then authority, everything. We are trying to streamline everything very nice. Okay, right. Right. So what are the strengths? when it comes to organization structure, students, what are the strengths? Right? Number one, if you have clear hierarchies, right? If you have clear hierarchies, then it's a strength. What do you mean by clear hierarchy? Right? Okay. Clear hierarchy means something like this. Right? Very simple. Right? Clear hierarchy means something like you have the CEO on top. Right? Under the CEO, right, you have different directors. Right? You have the director 1, director 2, director 3, right? Right. Right. Then under each director, you have managers, right? You have managers, right? Let's say M1, M2, right? M3, M4, right? Likewise, you have. Likewise, the structure goes down. Look how organized it is, right? Right? You know to whom you should report, right? Right? When you have a problem, you know to whom you should go and talk to, right? Right? So those are called clear hierarchies. Those are called clear hierarchies, right? If you don't have any of these hierarchies, you will be left alone, right? Okay, you will be left alone. You don't know what to do. If you are in trouble, you don't know to whom you should go and talk to. Okay, right? That's why in a team you have managers, assistant managers, then juniors. Then you have clear hierarchy or clear way of doing your activities or getting the support, getting advice. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? But in your organization, if you have right, blurred hierarchies, which means, right, just like this, it's not properly organized, right? Right? Today you work on the director 1, tomorrow director 2 calls you and give you some work. Next day, director 3 will call you and give you orders. After 1 week, CEO will directly call and give you orders. Right? Will you be happy? You don't know what is the work that needs to be prioritized. Right? Blurred hierarchies. If you have a problem, you don't know whether to call to director 1 or director 2 or director 3 or C. Right? Right? Blurred hierarchies, not properly organized. Right? So you won't be surviving in these five types of organizations who are having blurred hierarchies. Right? Very hard to survive. Right? Very hard to survive because you will be in trouble for every problem. Right? Okay. Right. Okay. Next, clear division of work. Right? Clear division of work. Clear division of work. I told you, if you have a good organization structure, each and every individual is assigned with a particular task. Right? Right? So that individual will only be responsible to perform that task only. If he makes a, if he makes a mistake according to that task, he has to take the responsibility. Clear division of work. Clear division of work. Right? Right? You know what needs to be done. You know what are your responsibilities. Right? But if you don't have clear division of work, you say unclear division of work. Unclear division of work. Right? Okay. You don't know what you have to do. Right? Today you will do some work from marketing, tomorrow from finance, another day from production. Right? You don't have a work that is designated to you. So that will lead to conflicts. Why? Because sometimes because you don't have a specific task to be done. Sometimes, let's say you make payment vouchers to make payments. The finance department, right? You have not been given that task, but there are no clear division of work. You do today. I will do payment vouchers, right? And then after some time, your friend is also doing the same work. And he also doesn't know what needs to be done. Payment voucher. So what happens? Both of you all have been doing the same activity, then it leads to duplication. එකම දේ දෙන්නෙක් කරලා. Look at the waste in resources, look at the waste in the time, right? And the mental level of these employees. Aparadhyakni, right? So very bad weakness, right? And then in an organization, you have clear specialization. Clear specialization, right? Right. Marketing separately, finance separately, production separately. You have separate departments, clear specialization. Then if you have a problem, first you need to identify what sort of a problem is. Is it a marketing related problem, a finance related problem? Then if you say it's a finance related problem, you just need to go to the finance department. Clear specialization. For each department, you have the heads, head of finance, head of marketing. Under them, you have senior managers of marketing, senior managers of finance. So clear specializations are given. So for each subject, if you have a problem, you can go and talk to the designated person, because that person has to take the responsibility because he has been given clearly the specialization, right? Right? But if not, this will lead to duplication of. That's a weakness. Duplication of, right? Duplication of work. Okay. So students, this is about organization structure. How organization is very nicely organized, right? Very nicely organized. Okay. Right. Straight away, right? We'll move on to the next task. The next element or the final element uh, is called resources. Vyapare Sampa. No, right? Now, in our part one, we discussed about different types of resources: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. We are talking about those things, right? Okay, right? Because we have fully control about the resources that we use. So, what are the key strengths and weaknesses of these resources? Okay. So, if you have, let's say, different types of resources, variety of resources, variety of resources, right? Okay, it's a good thing for your business, right? And when it comes to employees, you have variety of employees who are having expertise in different areas, right? Okay. When it comes to material, you have different types of material to make different types of products. It's a good thing for your business. Sometimes your company might not have those amount of resources, right? Then it's a limitation for him, right? But let's say if you don't have any resources, right? No resources, you don't have any resources or less, then you have to depend on another person to get the resources. To get the resources, you have to depend on another person. That's a weakness for your business, right? That's a weakness for your business, right? Okay. And as an example, right, if you are running a tea company in Sri Lanka, you have huge strength because you have enough resources when it comes to tea in Sri Lanka. You don't have to rely on anyone. That's a strength. But let's say if it comes to, let's say, what do you call gas and all these energy sources, right? Gasoline and crude oil and all those things. You have limited amount of resources in that area. So you will rely on the other countries like Gulf, right? It's a weakness, right? Right. So that will lead to more cost, expensive. Sometimes the resources will take time to come to your country. No, you have to. It will take some time for you to get the access the resources, right? Right. And then eventually you have quality resources. Oh, quality resources. Your resources are very good in quality, right? That will lead to a very good product at the end of the day. Quality resources will lead to quality products. That's a strength for your business today, right? But if you have inferior resources, oh, Bala, inferior resources, problem, students, problem, right? That will definitely reduce the quality of your final product. If your customers finds out that you are making your products with inferior resources, they will simply reject it and they will simply go to your competitor. Okay, right? There have been ample of times, right? I can give you like plenty of examples, right? Okay, right, right. Then if you have the opportunity to access your resources highly accessible, like I told you, if you are into tea manufacturing, go to Norelia, not only down Norelia. Country, then down south also you can grow tea. Right? In Sri Lanka, we are highly accessible for tea as a resource. Right? Okay? Right? Then it's a good thing. Then it's a good thing. Highly accessible. Highly accessible. Right? But sometimes, right, right, you don't have access to, right? You don't have access to some resources, right? Now, students, if you take, right, okay, if you take the technological industry, I mean, we have less amount of access to technical people, technical people in the sense who are very much connected to all these new technological trends like AI and all those things, right? Because we are a country, we are still lacking in terms of technology, right? Okay. So in that case, we are unable to recruit or access uh, what do you call these technical staff in these dynamics of the technology. So in that case, what we need to do, we have to get people from other countries, from US, from India, right? So they will be very costly, expensive, right? Okay. So that's a weakness for your business, right? Okay. Good, right? All right, students. So that's about what do you call it? Yeah, right. So that's about all the internal environmental factors, students, right? That's about all the internal environmental factors that I needed to discuss with you all, right? Okay. Now, very important. If you look at these internal environmental factors, students, right? Now you know all the factors that we discussed: owners, managers, employees. Then you have organization culture, structure, resources, all inside your business. Right? All these factors and forces, they are inside your business. They're internal to your business. So in that case, students, since these factors are inside your business, you have direct control over these factors. Right? You can quickly make changes. Right? You can quickly make changes. Right? As an example, right? If you have employees who are less skilled, right? The expertise level is very low, right? So you can actually directly control them, and then you can actually change. Why? If your employees are not having enough skills, you train them. You train them. Yes, you know it's a weakness, but you train them and convert them into experts in what they do. Then that will become a strength, right? Okay. So that's why I want to emphasize internal environmental factors, students, you have the direct control, right? You have the direct control, right? You have the direct control, right? As an example, another example, if you take uh, organization structure, organization structure. If your CEO is not working properly, if your CEO is not delivering, then you can ask the CEO to leave, and then you can appoint another CEO. You have the direct control there, right? Isn't it? Right. So that's what matters. If you take these internal environmental factors, they are internal to the businesses, they are internal to the business. You have the direct control of all these factors. You have the direct control of all these factors. Okay, right. Now, students, like I explained you, make sure that you know a small description about each internal environmental factor. At least you should know 2 to 3 strengths and weaknesses for each factor. Very important, that has been highly tested in your exam previously. Okay, now students, it's time for you all to read. After that, we'll move on to our next area, which is external environment. Go ahead. Go ahead. Right. Okay, students, now that we have very nicely and elaboratively discussed about internal environmental factors, right? Now we'll move on to the next side of the story. We are going to talk about the external environment. talk about the external environment. 2.3 external environment. Okay, right. So very simple, students, right? This is simply the opposite of the internal environment, right? External environment will capture all the forces, the factors, and conditions which are influencing the business organization, right? The decisions that they make, the operations, day-to-day operations, right? Everything these external environmental factors will influence, right? But the only difference is these external environmental factors, they exist external to the business, outside the business, right? They exist where? Outside the business organization. Exist outside the business organization. That's why we call it as external. Okay? Right? Right? Vyaparing elite. Vyaparing elite. Just give me 1 second, guys. I just need to switch on my what do you call battery. Hold on. Give me 1 second. External business, external environment. Right? Okay. Now you know you have a very good understanding about the fundamental about external environment, right? Right. Now, students, just like the internal environment analysis, we were able to identify strengths and weaknesses, right? Good things and bad things, right? Just like that, when you do an external environmental analysis, right? When you look at those factors and forces external to the business, those factors and forces might give you opportunities. Might give you opportunities. Opportunities. Right? Opportunities. Right? අපි කියන ඒවට අවස්ථා. අපි සිංහලෙන් අවස්ථා. අවස්ථා. Right? Okay? Right? And then on the other side, right? These external factors will pose threats to your business organization. That means threats. තර්ජන කියලා කියනවා. තර්ජනයක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. තර්ජන. තර්ජන. Okay, right? Right? Okay, right? Right? So you just need to keep this in your mind. So let's look at what are opportunities and threats one by one. Okay. First, let's talk about threats. Right? Okay. First, let's talk about threats. Right? Right. External factors or conditions that pose what? Risks or challenges. Risks or challenges that pose risks or challenges to an organization's ability to achieve its objective and meet these risks and challenges are kind of alarming ones, right? Okay, right, right, right. So these are sort of the bad things, no? Right, right, bad things, right? Risks, right? So in that case, threats can come from various sources in the external environment and may hinder and may hinder can what? Right? What do you mean by hinder? Slow down, which slows down. Hinder can slowing down, limit your organization growth and profitability. It's kind of bad thing, no? Right? Right? It's a threat to your business organization that will slow down the growth or limit the growth of your business or profitability of your business. It's not a bad thing. Okay. So, right? Identify, right? Identify and mitigate threats. Right? Mitigate करना क्या कहते हैं? नहीं करना हो. Mitigating. Right? 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 If you have threats in your business organization, which is influenced by the external environment, you have to find those, and then you have to come up with different solutions to mitigate them. Right? Right? Because you cannot fully 100% eliminate these threats, right? Because you don't have any control over these factors on the external environment. So what you can do is you can control them up to some extent. I mean, by adjusting. So that's why I say mitigating that is essential for the strategic planning and risk management. Right? That is actually a threat for your business. Right? Now, a very good example, if I could mention, right? Now, during COVID time, right? During COVID time, COVID was a economic pandemic which impacted or which posed threats and challenges to any business organization. I mean, any in the sense like majority of the businesses they had to go through a rough patch during that. Right. So that particular period was a challenge. It was a threat for the business. As you can see, some businesses actually went out of business also. They went into bankruptcy. They went into bankruptcy. Right. Okay. Right. Right. So in that case, students, in a business organization, you have to identify those types of threats in advance. Of course, you cannot, but if you do, if you, but you have to make sure that you are ready if something that of a sense threat occurs, you have to face them. You have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that. Otherwise, it will be a challenge for your business, but sometimes you will go out of the business as well. Threat, it's a bad thing, just like a bad omen, right? Okay, right. Okay, next students, the good things are coming, right? Then we have the opportunities. In life also we get a lot of opportunities. No? In life we get lots of opportunities. So we have been advised by our parents, by our teachers, never to say no to any of the opportunities. Right? When we have opportunity, you have to grab those opportunities and execute them. Because those opportunities will take you a long way. Right? If you listen to the stories of entrepreneurs, right? Right? Stories of entrepreneurs who has done really well, right? They have had certain challenges, challenging times. And also, one thing that they say is when they are doing business, they got a lot of opportunities and they try to uh, grab those opportunities and never let them go. And they say that is one of the reasons for them to grow up to this particular level. So, in that case, students, in your life and in your business, opportunities are good things. Make sure that you find the best ones and go for it because that will be a positive thing for your life and for your business. External factors or conditions that can benefit an organization. That can benefit. Yes. Yes. Right? That can benefit. Because this whole world is very fair. Right? It has to be very fair. So we have threats and opportunities, strengths and weaknesses. Right? Okay. Benefits an organization enhance competitive position, supportive growth, and success, right? So when you have opportunities, first you have to identify, just like yourself, you have to first identify, right? And identify කරගෙන නිකන් ලියාගෙන තියෙනවා මෙහෙම opportunity එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා. No, you have to capitalize them. You have to grab them and execute. Capitalize. Identify and capitalize. Capitalize on opportunities. හැබැයි threats වල අපි ඒකට ඉන්නේ කරේ. You identify what you do. You try to mitigate them. නේ? ඒ වගේ තියෙන impact එක අවම කරන්න බැහැ. But in opportunities, you cannot just mitigate them. You don't have to, right? You have to grab them, identify, grab them, and capitalize. Try to get the maximum out of that opportunity. Okay. So students, those are all opportunities. Those are all opportunities. Okay. Right. Read. So don't worry. I'll be giving you lots of examples, just like we discussed about internal environment. We are gonna discuss about each external environmental factor, and I will be discussing what are the opportunities and threats which was imposed by each factor. Right? Okay. Right. Good. So read it. Read it. Take 1 minute. Read it. Now, students, we have come to a point where we will have to do some questions. We'll do some past paper questions which have been tested in internal environmental factors and the basics in external environment. Okay, because next week we'll discuss about the factors and forces of the external environment. So I just want to test your knowledge with some questions. Okay, right. So we'll go to the last page of your tool. Test your knowledge as usual. right? Okay, right. Test your knowledge. Okay, right. Okay, 2025 advanced level. Okay, right. 2025 advanced level. Right. So I will give you around 1 minute. Quickly find the answer. Quickly find the answer. I will give you around 1 minute. Quickly find the answer. Okay, right. Okay. Match each stakeholder with the area of interest, right? With the area of interest is most relevant to them. Very simple, students. We discussed this question. Okay. Government, of course, they are interested in taking the taxes. So, employees, right? So, this is called employees, flexible work arrangement, right? You all can remember, right? The local community, of course, they are looking forward to get the job opportunities, right? Local community. Suppliers, suppliers, of course, they want their payments on time, timely payment and fair terms. And then customer has to be to buy quality products. So what's the answer? EDACP. Let's see, EDACP. EDACP. Yes. Answer number 5. Answer number 5. Right? Okay. Right. How many of you all got that answer correct? Show of hands. Yes, you can just show your hands. Online students, you can put a thumbs up if you have got the answer. And if you have any problem with the question, let me know. Okay? Right. Then we move on to the next question, students. Hold on. It is about, they're talking about what? Alright, okay, they're talking about internal environment. Okay, to the question and give me the answer. Question number 2, 2025. Question number 2, MCQ. Quickly. I'll give you around 1 minute. Quickly tell me the answer. Quickly. Okay, shall we do? Okay. Given below are some factors or the forces which influence the business. Okay, that's fine. What's the question? Among the above, which option contains only the forces that can be directly controlled? That's how the examiner is going to come. They're not very directly giving you, okay, to find about internal environmental factors, but they are impliedly saying, find the forces that are directly controlled. So, as a good student, you should know the factors are that are directly controlled and coming under internal environment. That's what we discussed today. So, they are asking about what are the factors coming under the internal environment. Okay, we'll find the answers. Trade unions, no. Suppliers, no. Employees, yes. A big yes. Right, a big yes. Work standards, yes. Right. We discussed under organization structure, right? The policies and all those things. Competitors, no. Organizational resources, yes. Organizational policies, exactly. Under structure, sorry, organizational culture, right? Then social activities not really being discussed, and then you have organizational structure. Answer is CDF, CDF, GJ, CDF, GJ, CDF, GJ. Yes, answer number 4. Answer number 4, right? Right. So, students, very easy for you to find answers. Right now, these are not the questions which I have made. These are the questions which has been directly taken from a 2025 advanced level paper. That's what I always say to my students. If you know the concept, if you know the fundamentals properly, right, getting a good mark, getting a good result for business studies is not an issue. Okay, but you got to study what is being given in the field. That's what matters. Okay, right. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the next question. You get to question number 3 also. Right? They're asking us to put current statement each of the following events is a strength, weakness, opportunity, or a threat. Okay, Quickly tell me. Quickly tell me. Right? Okay. Partnering up with universities. Universities. Oh, you are going to partner up with what you call different business organizations, right? When you partner up with business organization, right, you get what? You get a lot of opportunities, right? 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 You get a lot of opportunities. As an example, let's say you are a biscuit manufacturer and then you partner up with another biscuit manufacturer. So both of you will create a huge market, right? 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 Both the parties can increase their market share, sales, and everything. Customer base will increase. So it's an opportunity, a straight away opportunity, right? Opportunity, right? Opportunity, right? Conducting efficient training programs, right? Conducting efficient training programs. Skill shortage in the labor market, demonstrating for employee commitment. Okay. Conducting effective training programs for whom? Right? For whom? For employees, no? Right? So if you conduct very good training programs for your employees, right, that will give the employees to build their skills, right? What you call correct their mistakes. So that will improve their efficiency. So that will be a strength. Then, then skills shortage in the labor market. All right, okay. So you have a skills shortage in the labor market, which is outside the business. Then obviously it should be either an opportunity or a threat, not inside your business. There's a skill shortage outside the business, in the labor market. Then you won't be able to recruit people who are good, right? There's a shortage. So that's a threat for your business. Right? Then demonstrating poor employee commitment. Internal to the business, අපෝ employees ලා වැඩක් නැහැ. No commitment at all. That's a weakness for your business. Weakness. That is a weakness for your business, right? Okay, fine, good. Hari. So let's move on to these things we'll do later, right? Okay. Right. We have another one from 2024 advanced level question number 1. Okay, now you all have to give me the answer very quickly. Same type of a question. Stakeholders are given and their corresponding interests are also given. You just need to give me the right answer. Go ahead. What is the answer? Okay, let's discuss. The following table shows some stakeholders and okay. Right. What is the option that currently matches according to the order of the business stakeholders? Okay. Creditors. Who are creditors? Right. Which means creditors are the people that who has supplied us anything on credit. So we have to pay them. Right? Okay. So you have to pay them. Okay. Right. So creditors means they're looking at what? Employment generation, job security, financial stability returns. They will be highly focused on what? The financial stability. They will be highly focused on what? The financial stability. Because why? Because if you don't have money, if you don't have enough finance, how can you pay off them? Right? Your banks and all those things will be in trouble, right? So they will be interested in that. Okay. So C is got shareholders. Obviously, they are the people who are investing in the business by buying the shares. They will all R. That's D. This is D. Government. Government will be interested in how much of jobs that is being created by a business organization. Because, right? Because if the government is facing Unemployment, if the unemployment rate is higher in a country, that's a burden for the country. They have to look after them. But right? Then consumers, of course, they will go for value. So whatever the product that they buy, they want the products to be high quality, which gives you better value for money that you pay. Employees, of course, job security. So the answer is CDAEB. CDAEB. Answer is answer number 4. Answer is answer number 4. All right. Okay, students. So I think we'll finish off the class from here. Okay, we discussed now today we actually discussed about internal environmental factors, right? We discussed for each internal environmental factor what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses, right? And then we discussed about the external environment, the basic part of it, what are threats and what are opportunities, and then we did some questions, right? Okay. So feel free to do the questions by yourself, right? Make sure these questions are given to you. I don't have to attempt it by myself. I have attempted them long time ago, right? So make sure that you do these questions by yourself and test your knowledge. Keep your answers in the handout, and when we are checking, you can check whether you have got the right answer or the wrong answer. Okay, right. Okay, students. So next week we will be starting to discuss about the factors. So most probably within the next 2 weeks, we will be able to complete lesson number 1 and then move on with the lesson number 2. All right. Okay. So thank you very much for being a part of today's session, and hope you have a great rest of the day and great rest of the weekend. Thank you very much.